Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal, and I owe a little bit of a thank you to Grok. Today, I asked Grok for more information about the abortion death of Tanya Williamson and of the involved parties. Well, Grok gave me a link to a hyographic piece about good old Dr. Moshe Hachamovitch, the man responsible for Tanya's death. You have to remember, to an abortion supporter, all that matters is access. Whether the woman lives or dies, well, they prefer that she live, but if she dies, but she had access, right? That's how this works. A woman named Trisha Mukherjee, I believe it's pronounced Mukherjee, wrote a piece that was published in Business Insider March 3rd of 2024. A crucial abortion access lifeline is hanging by a thread. And it is a profile of the goings-on at Moshe Hachamovitch's clinic in the Bronx. Good old Trisha really had some serious enthusiasm for this place, a place where 3 women were fatally injured and inspectors found absolutely appalling conditions. Hachamovitch lost his license in 2 states because of how poorly he operated the clinics he owned. But it's the pro-lifers outside who were there to stand between women and this quack that are painted as disruptive. But the escorts that make sure Hachamovitch never misses a sale were painted as just so dedicated. They're out there in every kind of weather to make sure that Hachamovitch never misses a sale, never loses a customer. I mean, just listen to this. Bronx abortion was established in 1969, around the time New York State legalized the procedure. New York passed that law legalizing abortion on demand. It went into effect midway through 1970. So what was Hachamovitch doing there before it was actually legal for him to set up this practice? Inquiring minds want to know, but Trisha apparently wasn't all that interested. She certainly didn't pursue this any further. The red stucco building became a place people could go for safe abortions even before the Supreme Court's 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling. Again, to their mind, legal equals safe. Okay? It's like canine equals dog. They don't make a distinction. If it's legal, it's safe. If it's safe, it's legal. Same. Doesn't matter if this quack is doing it and the woman dies. It was legal, therefore it was safe. Managed by a small staff, the independent clinic provided between 1,000 and 2,000 abortions per year to mostly Black and Latinx patients. Minority women, that might be why they didn't care about the corpses. Clinic escorts say it was deeply loved by those who saw it as a pillar of reproductive justice. There was no justice for the dead women, I'll guarantee you that. But, trouble arose, Trish tells us. Over the decades, employees came and went. Laws changed. But the clinic never stopped providing abortions to patients who arrived at its doors. Until last year, when one woman's sudden death brought Bronx abortion to its knees. Now, I have to admit, at first I thought that this was going to be a piece about how tragic it was that the mean old people at the health department let some dead abortion patient be reason enough to shut this clinic down. I mean, you bake an omelet, you got to break eggs, you do abortions, you got to kill a few patients. That's what I thought this was going to be, that a woman died and those mean old people in the government shut this place down because of the dead woman. They're so mean. Nope. That's not the case. Now, the piece skips directly from this ominous note to tell us what a stand-up guy Hachamovitch is. The clinic's owner, Moshe Hachamovitch, founded Bronx Abortion while he was a trainee at Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Whenever I went to the emergency room, he recalled, it was cluttered with patients who had illegal abortions and were actually dying. So you wanted a piece of the action? You didn't exactly substitute safe abortions for these criminal ones, did you, Moshe? In its first few years, the clinic saw hundreds of patients. Eventually it grew, and Hachamovitch expanded and established abortion clinics across the country, from Long Island to Arizona to Texas. What never gets mentioned is that the clinics in Texas and Arizona got shut down by the state, and Hachamovitch got his license yanked for how badly they were managed and the patients that died there. But, Trisha's not going to worry her pretty little head about that. She jumps into praise of the facility's director, Irene Sylvor, Sylvor. And according to Trisha, Irene was just the most magnificent human being who ever trod the earth. She's sharp, funny, and generous. When Sylvor saw an opening at Bronx Abortion, she applied without hesitation, a firm believer in a woman's right to choose, just not necessarily a right to survive your choice. She had her work cut out for her. Now, when I read that sentence, I thought it was going to be kind of like when Bernard Nathanson went to Crash, that, oh my God, this place is a cesspit, I have to fix it. Nope. Nothing to do with cleaning it up, because as we'll see, she did not clean it up. When Sylvor began working at the clinic about 4 decades ago, she became the organizer, the leader, the mother of the clinic, said Destiny Kirby, a clinic escort. Hachamovitch described her as a force. According to Sarah McNeely, another clinic escort, Sylvor took on a workload proportional to multiple employees to keep the lights on. To keep the lights on. Follow the link below to my companion piece here, and it links to abortion docs. Oh, you can't follow the link below if you're on YouTube. Go to realchoice.blogspot.com for the companion piece. If you're on Rumble, you can follow the link. She kept the lights on, but that's about all she did. 4 decades, okay, since roughly 1984. That means she was there for all 3 dead patients. But regardless of how Hachamovitch was treating them, she remained dedicated to keeping him in business. Broken bag valve mask, no problem. Unqualified staff in the recovery room, no problem. And since she was the clinic manager, I think she has as much responsibility for this as Hachamovitch did. So I think she's just as responsible as Hachamovitch for these dead women. But let's just go on. Trisha tells us that Sylvor wanted to keep abortion easy, fast, and affordable. Notice that safe isn't even in there, because evidently safe was not on this woman's radar. Easy, fast, and affordable. It says sometimes even free, but Trisha doesn't explore how the facility achieved this. Were these charity cases that he used for a tax write-off? Was he tapping into some sort of abortion fund? We don't know. And Trisha noted that patients could call Sylvor anytime, day or night, and Sylvor's daughter said that her mother kept a notepad by the bed to scribble notes. Keep that in mind. She was the one answering the emergency phone, not a doctor. Just this woman who managed the clinic because she just wanted to make sure the lights stayed on and lots of abortions happened. And now we get to the woman's death that was so devastating to this facility. It wasn't Luz Rodriguez, who died in January of 1986 after an incomplete abortion at the clinic. Nope. Wasn't Christina Goswine, who died in October of 1990 after she called in the middle of the night saying that she was having problems, and instead of being told to go to the hospital, she was told to meet Hachamovitch at his office, and he killed her doing emergency post-op surgery there rather than at a hospital. And it wasn't Tanya Williamson, who died at the clinic from an anesthesia screw-up. It was Irene Sylvor, the woman who had kept the mill grinding through all that malpractice. Hachamovitch, in his early 80s, preferred retirement to finding somebody else who was going to keep the doors open in the way Irene could, and he sold the property to developers. Now, Trisha laments the way the building, once bustling with business, now sits empty. But again, the entire article makes no mention of the 3 dead women at the Bronx location or of the women who died at the other clinics Hachamovitch ran. No mention of Jamie Garcia, who died of sepsis in 1994 after an abortion performed at his clinic in Texas. No mention of Lisa Bardsley, who was sent home to bleed to death in 1995 after an abortion at one of his clinics in Arizona. And no mention of Lou Ann Herron, who bled to death at that same clinic under circumstances so appalling that both the abortionist and the nurse were convicted of manslaughter. And the conditions in those 3 clinics were so bad that Texas and Arizona both nuked Hachamovitch's medical license. But, you know, those women's deaths are invisible and insignificant as far as Trisha and Business Insider are concerned. The only woman whose death registers to them is the woman who kept Hachamovitch's doors open when women weren't safe going in there. In the very closing, Trisha quotes Chelsea, one of the escorts. Even in places that we think are safe havens for abortion, we can't take for granted that providers are secure. I think that's very telling. Safe havens for abortion, not for women. Because that's what Hachamovitch's clinic was. It was a haven where abortion as a practice was safe, even when the women weren't.